The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh. Got my hustle on, no imitation of bad. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throbbing my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too evil and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty.
Earthly Podcast. Guest on the show today, we got our old friend here, Torrey Spears, social media commentator. What's up, buddy? It's been a couple months.
How's it doing? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. I know you're under the weather. We're going to reschedule this podcast to another day, but you sent me an emergency text on the back cave saying, "Hey, I could probably hack this tonight." So,
yeah, let's do it, man.
We're doing it.
We got a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
There's too much going on. It's just, was it FOMO? Was it FOMO?
I think I had a case of the phone. That's probably why I'm not feeling well.
Yeah, she probably shook the hell out, man. I mean, it's funny, like, not really funny, but it feels like the debate was years ago.
Right.
It feels like the Trump assassination attempt was months ago.
Right.
It feels like the RNC was weeks ago, and now we have the latest July surprise of Joe Biden, because we were going to talk about the RNC, the good and bad of the RNC.
Right.
But right now, front and center right now is the whole thing on the Democratic side. Joe Biden's out of the race. Kamala Harris is now the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party. How about it? Your thoughts? What do you think? What all that stuff's going on?
Well, listen. Again, thanks again for having me on.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. It's good to see you again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a wild couple of weeks here, hasn't it? Like you said, I mean, I was all excited to go over the RNC with you,
and then
we had the Trump thing happen, like you said, and then all of a sudden Biden's dropping out or being forced out, depending on who you believe, and Kamala Harris as the presumptive Democratic nominee. Listen, I'm not a fan of her, obviously, for political reasons. I have nothing against her personally. I've never met the woman. We don't line up philosophically. We don't line up as far as politics go. She wouldn't be getting my support. I do think it's very ironic and funny that the party of we the people and making sure every voice is heard and every vote is counted has now decided, since their candidate didn't look like he was going to win, that they would just find a way to get him out and replace him, effectively nullifying 14 million votes, Democratic votes. I would have a problem with that if the Republican Party did that as a primary voter. I think that just slaps in the face of, the threat for democracy and all of that.
Yeah.
But having said that, Democrats can do whatever they want, I suppose, if that's, and to be fair, we've watched Joe Biden degrade for months, if not years. I think the first time you and I talked was we talked about Biden's faculties and how they were failing him. And this was, years ago. So
yeah.
It's not been a good time. It probably was the smart thing to do. I don't think Biden had a path to victory, despite what he and everybody else was saying. Just as early as 2 weeks ago, right? I mean, everybody was like, "Oh, he's gonna win, and Trump's in trouble." And I've never seen him more vim and vigor, and he's got such a record to run on. And then like that debate happened, and everybody jumped off, and they're like, "Nope, you got to get out." So, it's going to be an interesting race. I don't think it's a slam dunk for Trump. I do think that right now there's a love affair, there's a honeymoon with this story of Kamala Harris. But I think once we get into her record and what she accomplished as vice president, which I think I could probably fit on the palm of my hand. It's going to be a tough sell for a lot of Americans.
No, you touched on a lot of things that I agree with you on, especially that I've been saying for years. Number one, the democratic process, or quote unquote democratic process, is not very democratic at all. I've been on record saying that the GOP. Hell, I said to you either in the episode in March or before that.
That's right.
The GOP process is more fair than the Democratic Party process is. There's these sub delegates and all this. Stop. It's not fair.
Super delegates. Joe
Biden,
we talked about that with Bernie. Yeah, what they did to Bernie.
Joe Biden should have been primaried. There should have been a primary. And discussion. I've been on that for at least a year now. Look, it's their party to run it as they will, but it's just fascinating that a party that claims to be for the people and democracy and all this stuff runs a party opposite of that. I 100% agree with you on that one, without question. It is what it is. Do I think Kamala Harris has a better shot being Donald Trump than Joe Biden? Absolutely. I said that Donald Trump had us in the bag. The polling was showing that was going that direction, and it's not like Joe Biden was going to get any better. He's not going to get any younger. The gaps, he's still going to gap. The gap going to be gapping still to January 20th. You know what I'm saying? Inauguration day. And it just, the optics look bad. So on one hand, I agree Kamala has a better shot. To me, Kamala, if anything, I'm not going to say Kamala is going to be Trump. First off, that's not on the table. I still put Trump as a slight favorite. But there's more politically speaking, there's more upside of Kamala being in place here than Joe Biden, for obvious reasons. But yeah, does the process suck? Absolutely. The process does suck. But again, it's their party.
So there are a lot of deficiencies from Joe Biden, the candidate, that Kamala Harris won't carry. That's clearly true. That's the good news for Democrats. The age and the mental faculty issue, all of those things are off the table now. I don't know if I would try to make that argument against Trump now. I know that they're trying to do that, which I think is a little
the age issue.
Yeah, it kind of slaps in the face of irony when you're like, wait a minute now. Just 2 weeks ago, again, yes. You're like, oh, Joe Biden is spry, and so that part frustrates me. But whatever, politics is show for the most part.
Let me tell you why. Because to me, it was never about the age part. Age never bothered me because there are sharp people who are in the 80s that can do the job.
Yeah,
you may not agree. You may not agree with Nancy Pelosi's politics. She's very sharp her age, and she's older than Joe Biden. She's very sharp. There are people in that age group. Donald Trump, for much as people don't love or hate him, he's way more with it than Joe Biden is on optics. That's not in the conversation. So it wasn't about Joe Biden's age. It's that Joe Biden was old and he looks diminished.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact, and you can no longer hide that anymore.
Right.
So that's all I'm going to say. Go ahead, continue.
And honestly, I mean, they weren't really doing a great job of hiding it, in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, but again, we don't really need to. Joe Biden can ride off into the sunset now, and I guess he has address the nation tomorrow about his plan moving forward. It's Kamala and Trump right now, and like you said, it's going to be a lot tighter than I think people expect. I'm really anxious to see Kamala debate, because in 2016, when she was doing the primary debate, she was terrible. And she doesn't really have a lot to run on. So it's going to be interesting if this becomes a discussion about the vision of the country moving forward and the accomplishments that we've had in the past. There's not a lot that she can hang her hat on as vice president. Her big ticket item was the border czar, or being in charge of straightening out the border, and the border is a disaster. And she never went to the border, as far as I know. And last I heard, she went to Galveston or something, but never even visited the border. So,
and she had the word salad with that whole thing. I saw the interview again yesterday. I was like, oh my, that's not a good look.
Yeah. I've never been to Europe either. Right. I mean, they're going to run those things ad nauseum. You have that. You have all the stories about her not paying attention in briefings. I mean, Politico, I believe, or Axios, one of those websites ran an article a few months ago about how she never pays attention in security briefings. Like there's a lot of now, of course, all that information is going to go away now, right? Because she's the belle of the ball. But politics is optics. I'm not ignorant to that fact. So you have the, I guess, de facto first black woman, even though that's a discussion I don't know. It's just it's insane. we don't talk about policies anymore. We don't talk about what's best for the country. We turn everything into these histrionic arguments about democracy and taking away people's rights, and Trump's a dictator and Kamala Harris is a socialist. And I mean, I long for the days when we used to have substantive policy debates. You and I have talked about that, as many times as we've talked together.
Yeah.
But, those days are probably long gone. So it's just going to be whoever shows up, I guess, or shows out. And that's going to be who a majority of the people vote for.
So when you were on the podcast back in March, actually, I asked you to forecast the election from then, and I asked you who will win. You said you still had Joe Biden's a favorite.
I did.
Now, before Joe Biden was out of the paint on Sunday, did you change your tune on that?
I did. Once I watched the debate, I knew it was over. I know that, and that's not breaking news. I think most people kind of came to that conclusion. He had obviously been faltering for months after that, and it got to a point where I don't think you couldn't hide it anymore.
Yeah.
I know even the press was starting to kind of turn on the administration. They were hiding him more often. I think there's a lot of interesting stories that are going to be told in the Biden legacy, in 10 or 20 years, once we get through this, about all of the things they did to hide his mental deficiencies and faculties. But yeah, there was a point there where after that debate, I thought he should stay. If he stays in, he's going to get mollywopped. I mean, he's going to get run. Trump looked his usual self. And at that point, he was still maxing around about 47, 48. But there were I think a lot of people saw that with this guy, not only can he not do another 4 years, I don't even think he's running the country now, Yeah. So, at that point, and, obviously Democrats thought the same thing. And, I get it. I get the wanting to kick him out and get somebody else in because they knew he wasn't going to win. But again, like we said earlier, you should have just wrote it out like you said you were going to, because that's what the will of the party was, the people. But anyway, I did. I had changed my mind. I thought at that point, okay, he's going to probably win regardless of, his deficiencies. I mean, there's no way this country is going to elect Joe Biden.
And now with Kamala being in there, you think it's now 50-50, or do you still think Trump's the favorite?
So I think that's a good question. I think it's going to be closer.
Right. The polling is showing that too. Also, the polling is showing that.
Yeah. So I have a problem with polling.
I was just going to ask you that. Where are you on polling? Something with that question. Actually.
Yeah, you see a lot on my social media when I talk about that for both sides. Right. I say, both sides tend to get excited about their polls when it favors their candidate, right? And then when it doesn't, they go, well, that poll's, well, that's fake, or that's so I don't know. And we've gone through 3 election cycles now, the 2016, 2020, 2024. I guess 2020 was a little closer, but that election was so wonky.
Yeah.
But when you look at the polling, I mean, I don't know what the sample sizes are. I don't know how the data is accumulated now. It never seems to follow any common sense trends. So I don't put any faith in any of the polls, to be honest with you. I really don't. I think a lot of these outlets manipulate the data. I mean, and you can do that. You can manipulate the data to say whatever you want. It doesn't have to reflect the real voice of the country. So yeah, I think that Kamala got a bump, now that she's the head, and, all this money and all this flowing free press. So yeah, it makes sense. Do I think that she all of a sudden is, 10, 16 points ahead like I saw on some? Come on.
No.
Let's slow down. So I don't. But going back to your question, I do think it's going to be closer. I do think that Kamala has her work ahead of her, and I think Democrats have their work ahead of them because she's not a strong candidate. She may have a story, but she's not a really good debater. Her record is paper thin, and I don't think she's as strong or as likable as, like a Joe Biden was. And also from a policy standpoint, she's very, very progressive. I mean, very, very, very progressive. I mean, I've heard her in some of those primary debates and town halls say some really, really progressive ideas.
It's funny because
far to the left of Obama.
Because I've heard some of that too also, but I also heard that she's very corporate as well too. So, I mean, a lot of progressives don't like her. She's too corporate. She's too snuggy with the Obamas and the Bidens and all those donors and whatnot. So I don't know.
That may be, but it's going to be a tough sell. I mean, that debate performance is going to tell the difference. I think they have. I don't know if they have one debate. I'm assuming in September. I think with them being side by side, that's going to be really interesting. And Trump is going to have to really balance himself, because anytime he comes at her, it's going to be played off as, a man coming after a woman. I mean, he got away with it from doing it with Hillary, because Hillary is so shrill and wasn't very likable to begin with. So, you're coming after a woman, you're coming after a person of color. It's going to be a circus. So he's going to really have to be careful.
Yeah,
I really would have liked to see the JD Vance and Kamala debate. I think that probably would have been a lot more substantive.
Mm-hmm.
But we are where we are.
Yeah, I was saying earlier to a couple of friends of mine that unlike with Hillary, who was very unlikable, and the whole aura, who was just people just didn't like her, even on both sides really. Trump can't use the same hits with Kamala to use a Hillary, because there's that lane where even and you may agree with me on this, we'll see. There's a lot of black folks who may not like her, but you don't get to tell her you don't get to talk to her that way. That's still my people. I don't like her, but you don't get to talk to her that way. And if Trump's not careful, he can all of a sudden get folks to vote against him just based on simple things like that. That could be a situation where if Trump isn't careful, he can make her almost martyr her in her own community of people who may not even like her, but because that guy's attacking ex-black woman, no, you don't get to talk to her that way. That's our girl, even though we don't vote for her, but you don't get to talk to her that way. So there's pitfalls there.
I could see that. I don't know if that's going to be enough to move the needle when you're talking about the economy, when you're talking about inflation, when you're talking about gas prices and energy. And again, we're going to get into, they're going to get into these substantive debates where they have some really, really different ideas about, the electric cars and versus fossil fuels, how we deal with inflation, government spending. I mean, he can, if he is measured in which is a big ask, but right. So, I mean, any normal politician could take apart her substantive ideas and say why they are not great for the country moving forward, short term and long term. He's got to find a way to do that. If he can stay in his lane and do that, I think he'll be okay. If it turns into, I know he's already calling her Laughing Kamala. I mean, if it turns into that kind of circus, you're exactly right. It's going to turn people off. It's going to turn women off. It's going to turn off people of color. Maybe not enough that, it makes a huge difference, but in a place where he was making really, really sound ground, he's going to give some of that away if he gets out of it.
I tell some supporters today too, also, like, Trump, as popular as he is in the party, he does have a ceiling. He does have a ceiling. Whereas Joe Biden has a ceiling also too. Kamala has a ceiling herself, but Kamala's ceiling potentially could be a lot larger because of the much of the demographic she can attract. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just a fact. But depending on how she campaigns and who she attracts to, women and color and all this other stuff and all the potential things that you can see if she wins this election. First black woman president, first black, what you want to call it. A lot of those like check marks that those are things that are attractive to people. I mean,
they are.
They shouldn't be just that. It should be policy based. But again,
you're right. But the difference between Kamala Harris and Barack Obama is personality. Barack Obama was inspirational. Barack Obama, if you remember, if you go back and listen to his campaign and he was such a smooth politician.
Yeah.
He I don't want to say snake oil salesman, but I mean, he was he knew how to toe the line between, talking about inspiration and change and all of these things versus sounding rational and sounding measured.
Yeah.
I don't get that from Kamala Harris. I've heard her talk. She does not sound like she's going to be somebody that's going to bring the country together. Right. I mean, that's going to be the deciding factor, I think, in this election, especially, is who's going to be the one that can articulate bringing the country together.
Right.
Joe Biden said that, and from what everybody tells me, that's why he got elected in 2020. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's what I think a majority of the country needs and wants to hear right now. Yes, There's problems with the economy. Yes, there's problems at the border. There's wars in Ukraine. There's war in Israel. I mean, there's things going on, but we need a sense of unity. And I think, like I told you before, with my issue about voting for Trump this turnaround, is because as a voter, like, I want to vote for something. Like, I'm tired of just voting against an ideology, right? Like, I don't
Welcome to my
just,
world, brother. Welcome to my
I don't
world.
want to just vote again. You're right, right? I don't. It's deflating. It's not inspiring at all. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to go vote, but I'm going to vote to keep Kamala Harris out of the office. Okay, well, that doesn't inspire me. Like, that doesn't make me excited.
I agree with you.
I want to get excited about the country and want to have something to look forward to and be positive. And we just don't have that in our politics anymore. It's sad. It makes me very sad.
I'm very fascinated to see the polling. I want this polling to bake 2 weeks. They want to bake again after the Democratic convention next month. And then we have a better idea where this race really is. Once you see the logos comes out and you see what she picks as VP, which, by the way, I mean, you're not a Democrat, but who would you think, if you're a Democratic strategist, who would you say would be the best pick for her, in your opinion?
If I were her, I would pick a governor.
Yeah,
I would pick. I hate the optics. I know that that's what they talk about. Well, she should pick a white guy. That's kind of what I've heard from the tea leaves, is that she has to pick a white guy or like Gretchen Whitmer, who, I mean, good luck with that. I mean, she was, during COVID, she was an awful governor. But I would probably pick somebody. I would pick a governor. I would pick somebody with some executive experience, somebody kind of, again, calm and measured, somebody that's not a bomb thrower, and that's I guess it's the idea of, do you want to charge and excite your base at the expense of everybody else, or do you want to show that you're going to try to, like, bring the country together, right? And we can talk about Trump advance in a minute if you want, but that, what I really long for is somebody that, again, has some executive experience. I think that would do her really well. Somebody that, even if it's a blue state governor, I think Andy Beshear, I believe, the governor of
Kentucky,
was a guy that they're talking about. That I can understand that, right? Somebody that is going to, like I said, there's a sect of the country who will probably have a problem voting for her anyway, just on optics and just whatever. You can appeal to those voters, those blue dog Democrat voters who may feel funny about a woman and or a woman, if they've got somebody, if she's got somebody on the ticket that's more palate cleansing. So that's what I do. So saying that, she's probably going to pick like Al Sharpton or Jeffries.
She better not. I can't stand Al Sharpton. I can't stand that race baiter. No, I was saying Josh Shapiro probably the favorite because PA, strategically speaking, they need Michigan too and Wisconsin, but PA is the gold mine of this election.
So there's the whole thing about the him being Jewish, though, right?
Yeah, I heard that too.
So the progressive left, they're gonna throw their hands up about him being Jewish.
They're gonna make this about a referendum on Trump and referendum on women's rights, and that's the advantage they have, because Kamala, being a woman now and being the lead on the ticket now, can actually sell that now better than anybody else.
That's true. Now, to be fair, and I'm pro-life. I stand on the side of Trump's position on abortion as far as it goes. Put it to the states. I'm okay with that. We don't need a national federal ban on abortion. We don't need, that's counterproductive, and it's just toxic, right? As much as you want to fight for the right to live, there are certain circumstances and situations where something like that is warranted, and that's a discussion for, again, families and doctors. I completely am okay with that. I understand that. I can compromise on that, and to my understanding, Trump's ideology, or at least his thought on abortion, goes that way. So I think it'll be less. I don't want to say offensive, but less partisan. How about that? Yeah. Less partisan. His agreement on that. But you're right. I mean, they're going to turn it into, he wants to take away women's rights. I mean, it's already attack on democracy, attack on women's rights, attack on. It's like you can beat Trump by not being so bombastic.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that the left, I don't think, understands. Like, they're so angry and so vitriolic, and they hate him so much that they just lose all this common sense. Like, you can beat him on policy. You can beat the Trump doctrine on just, being measured and common sense and talking about, okay, why these things
said that
work.
2018. You're going to martyr this guy. You could beat him on policy.
It did. But they get so mad and they get like foaming at the mouth and they start calling him Hitler and and that all that does. You're just going to take people who are independents and who are like, okay, you know what? He's not Hitler. You can't always call somebody Hitler. It's just not.
Yeah,
it loses. It's lost its feeling. It's lost its merit.
Like, do we understand what Hitler did? I mean, Hitler literally killed 12 million Jews.
You got like, Rachel Maddow, like, oh, he's going to take me off the air. Come on. Like,
it's not working, dude. And all you do is martyring him. I said it in 2018. I said it on the show in 2018. You can beat the guy on policy. Stop martyring this guy.
Yeah.
And they did that.
Yeah.
It wasn't for COVID, they would have won re-election.
Yeah.
Honestly. So, but yeah, I'm with on that one. To be honest with you, like with Trump's position on abortion, he's actually left of me.
Yeah.
I think I told that last time on the podcast. Like, he wants 15, 16 weeks. I'm actually more concerned over him than he is. And I'm pro-choice.
Mm-hmm.
But the state rights thing, that's a little more complicated. I see the value in state rights because it leaves more people decisions instead of like just a whole conglomerate. Because I don't want Arizona to tell me what Florida should do and vice versa. And everybody has different economies and different priorities and different. You know what I mean? So I definitely see the value in state rights. I just don't know if women's rights is the one thing that should be limited to that also too. That's another discussion another day.
Yeah, so, no, for sure. We can talk about that.
Yeah, of course.
For sure.
The RNC. The reason why I wanted to get on the show, like, was the RNC. Of course, RNC has been weeks away. No, not really, but you know what I mean.
So lifetimes ago.
So give me some pros. Give me some pros at RNC. Did you enjoy it? I know you watched a little bit of it. What's some pros for you?
I ended up watching a fair deal of it as a registered Republican, and definitely wanted to be a part of the festivities. I think overall the messages were good. I think they really did a good job with the presentation. I think the RNC did a great job of showing. It was very positive, which I really appreciate. Again, I am all for being inspired, and a lot of the speakers, there was diversity in the speakers, but the messages were all on point. We want a safe and secure country. We want, we want borders protected. We want to back police and law enforcement. We want a strong economy. It's not just a matter of jobs, but we want to tamp down inflation or at least get rid of inflation. That would be great. Ideally, they have a really positive economic message. They have a positive message about securing our borders, but more or less, it's about bringing the country together.
Right.
And I think that there's a hunger and a thirst in America to hear that message. I think we are so divisive right now, and we have, a media complex, and we have social media, and we have all of these things that profit off of us being divisive. And you and I have talked about this time and again, but it's just, we have an entire construct that is profiting on us hating each other and being mad at each other. And I think that deep down, we just want to be inspired. And I believe that, and there's a lot of room for compromise. And I believe that there's a lot of room for us to say, hey, we're not that different. You and I can agree to disagree, and we can find a way to work on things. And that's what's great about this country is there are laws in place, and then, federalism and states' rights, and, voting in your local elections and voting for governors. There are ways to bring about change. Not everything has to be top down. And I think that message really carried through the GOP convention. So I think they really did. I think they did a good job. The top two speakers, Trump, I was not impressed at all. I think he talked way too long, and I think it actually bored me for a little while.
This is weird because he's not boring. I'll say simple about Trump. He ain't boring though.
So and I'll grant him. I can't speak for the man's personal and mental feelings, having gone through what he went through. I don't know. I think something like that would probably change you. So there's probably something like that. But then at the same time, I think back to, so I'll tell you a story. So 2016, right? I was McCain and Palin.
No, that's 08. That was 08.
08 was, yes, you guys, I don't even remember. Yeah, 08 was McCain.
Time is flying, brother.
It does. Golly almighty. Anyway, so when McCain won the nomination, I was devastated, right? As a Republican, I was like, this guy's, he is so center. He's such a centrist. He's like,
You like him?
he was old. No, I wasn't a big fan. I mean, he was fine, but it wasn't like, again, he didn't inspire me. He wasn't young. He wasn't like, vibrant. He wasn't new. It was just, it's like a Washington guy, senator, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I was not really excited about McCain until I heard his speech at the convention.
Yeah.
And that guy got up there and he was on fire. And I was like, okay. I can do this. I can get behind this because, there's passion in his voice and he was excited. And that's what, again, the message of unity and the message of fighting for what you believe in. And he brought that. And I didn't get that from Trump. I mean, I got kind of a speech like it was at any of his campaign rallies. And I thought, I expected more, frankly.
Yeah, I remember McCain's speech. I actually, so that was the year I left the GOP. No, wait. But
really?
But McCain was still on the, at that point, McCain was still in consideration because I do like John McCain. I voted for him in the primaries in 2000 initially. And I did consider running for him in 2008. And then he picked Sarah Palin. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. No. So that voted for Obama at that point.
She got a raw deal, Sarah Palin.
You got a raw deal?
She got a raw deal.
Interesting. This is an interesting podcast. We'll discuss it later on the road. I'll find for content later on down the road.
Right down. Yeah.
No, but what I will say about the GOP convention this year, comparison to like the 2012 and comparison to, and I say to the last couple, very more, at least on the optics, much more positive and much more. Even forget policy differences aside, let's talk about the optics about it. It was much more unifying. Than if you've seen them be in the last couple cycles. To be honest with you, the downfall of that was the headliner, was Donald Trump. Everybody else did their job staying unified. Donald Trump was playing hits again. To be honest, he went too long. If he kept it simple and unifying and kept with the message and not going off script, they could have gotten more out of that. But I thought Trump was typical Trump.
And
that's a problem, I guess, for me anyway. For anybody on the fringe.
Yeah, no, I think that I think that he gave the people what they wanted. That's and he does that, and so ironically enough, and I guess we can segue into his vice president choice, J.D. Vance, which I was, of all the people that he could have picked. I mean,
not a fan.
I was not. I'm not a fan.
Everybody I talked to is not a fan. This is what I think though about. So when I said that the VP picks doesn't matter in the Democratic side, definitely in terms of how their ceiling is going forward into November, I don't think it matters in this side because Trump is Trump. They're here for Trump. Trump could pick anybody. He could pick Marco Rubio. He could pick anybody. It's not going to change because they're there for Trump.
Right.
But that being said, what you just said there, I get the same vibe also too. Everybody else, no one likes him. I'm surprised.
I don't. It's not a matter of not liking him. I don't think. He is. And again, this is just like I've heard some of his speeches. I heard his speech at the convention. There's nothing wrong with him necessarily. Okay. I just think that it was like I don't want to say it's a safe pick, but it was just kind of like okay, all right, fine. He's. And again, vice presidents, like you said, they don't move the needle.
No, they should. Nor should they.
Nor should they. You're right. But you do have to think in the back of your mind. This is the potential one heartbeat away from being the leader of the free world. Correct. So there's that. And JD Vance maybe just fine. The more I hear him speak, the more, it may be just fine. I think some of the things that he did in Ohio, it looked like it was pretty passionate, and he's certainly positive enough to get elected as senator there.
Right.
But I just think that there was an opportunity that the Trump campaign missed, and from what I hear, and again, it's just speculation and rumor, is that Vance is more of a in line with Trump. I don't want to say a yes man, but he's more of just he's going to toe the line basically. And maybe he being Trump feels like he's got this in the bag and doesn't need to extend an olive branch to the rest of the party. I don't really know. I mean,
So
go ahead.
the rumor was that Trump's favorite was actually Doug Burgum. Don Jr. is the one that actually pushed to have Vance on the ticket, and of course Donald Trump. If you believe that's true, that's what happened here. So he wanted Burgum apparently.
I hadn't heard that. Burgum was kind of the same. I mean, he was really strong on energy. I would have loved to have seen him debate on energy, and he did really well in the primary debates. I thought, for not getting any time on television, he did a really good job in the debates.
Yeah.
I honestly, I was kind of hoping for Haley.
I was going to ask about that.
I was hoping for Haley. I thought that would have been, and I know it would have made all the MAGA people mad, but I just think that it was an opportunity there to bridge the Trump wing of the party and the not Trump wing of the party.
Right.
Because there is still a fissure there. I mean, if you now see, I'm on right wing Twitter for the most part, so the majority of my feed is that side of the group, and a lot of it is there's so much animosity that the Trump Republicans have with Haley and DeSantis. Obviously, if it was DeSantis, I'd have been ecstatic because he's my governor. But I just think, again, we're talking about what's best for the country. We're talking about bringing people together. We're talking about unifying. And what better way to unify is to say, you know what, I don't agree. Just like Haley said in her speech, I don't have to agree with this person 100% of the time. I can agree with them 70% of the time, 80% of the time, but we have the same goals in mind and we can work together to accomplish those things. That's what I want. That's what I need in an administration. I don't need another Joe Biden administration where it's just going to be a bunch of whoever all saying the same thing. And, you number one, you don't grow as a person when you have people all around you just telling you what you want to hear and telling you know, yes, man. And you alienate other people who want to join your cause. So I told you before, I'm still on the fence, and I'm still on the fence about whether or not I'm going to even vote for president. I mean, I may just leave it blank still.
I think you say you leave it blank and then you go down ballot rest of the way.
I'm still there because I was, and I want to be inspired. Trump doesn't inspire me. I think he'll do a good job if he gets reelected. I'm not as concerned about the authoritarian dictatorship commentary. I think all that's stupid.
What do you make of the whole Project 2025 thing? What do you make of all that?
I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't read Project 2025. I don't know anything about it. I know that it's some sort of right wing boogeyman now that the left constantly talks about.
Trump is saying that had nothing to do with him and this and that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that came from. I think it's just one of those things that, he said that I've heard Trump say that he has nothing to do with it. So,
right. He did say that.
I mean, whatever. It's going to be whatever. I haven't even thought about it. I haven't read about it. I don't really care. I just want common sense in government. I just want, I think my needs as a voter are pretty tamped down. So, but I think Trump will do a good job if he gets reelected. I'm not concerned about that. His 4 years that he was in office pre-COVID, I think were great. I mean, financially, economically, we were great. We were strong on the border. There were no wars. I mean, there's not a lot to complain about other than the fact that, the guy was castigated every single day by the media and the Democrats and all the nonsense that put him through. Yeah. If it had just, if they'd have just took their lumps, took their loss, and said, we'll get you in 4 years, probably we could have had even more success. But it was just all a circus, because Trump broke so many people mentally and emotionally. But having said that, do I want to go through this another 4 years? I have reservations, and it's enough that, I really, really wanted a different candidate, obviously, from my side. That didn't happen. So then I think I said, I'm resting on who he picks as vice president. Is that choice is going to show me whether or not I can be yeah, I can go in there and vote for this because I'm excited, or am I going to have to drag myself in to even decide? And that's kind of where I am with Vance.
I respect that too, because you're very principled conservative, very principled. You don't. You're like me. You're not. This is not a damn beauty pageant. This is a policy or personality situation. I'm the same way too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't really care if the guy couldn't, if he stuttered and stuff. Like, even with not to draw comparisons, but if the shoe was on the other foot and Joe Biden was, well, I get that's not fair because his faculties are long gone. That's sad what they're doing to
Right.
him.
Right.
But I don't care that Trump is whatever 80 years old or whatever he is, but his faculties are fine. I mean, he can deliver a message. It's just about policy.
Yeah.
Do you present the things that make sense to me? Are you
That's
going
what
to plan a vision forward for the growth and development and the success of the country? Protect our borders, low taxes, low federal government, more states' rights. Let's let the people decide what's best for them. That I think that's what makes America so great, is the fact that we can self-govern, that we can pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, that we can do the things that we need to do to be successful. And that means that sometimes we're going to fail, but we can help each other in communities and local governments. And those things are the heartbeat of America, not this big, grandiose federal government monstrosity that is trying to push New York and California things onto Kansas and Nebraska. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's what I want, and that's kind of an overarching view. And I know that back in the day, the Republican Party stood for those things, and now we're just kind of like Democrat lights. So it's frustrating.
I will say it was kind of promising seeing bipartisanship during the Secret Service director, now resigned today, Kimberly Cheadle, and seeing the bipartisanship and them going right at her like wolves, and they did the right thing in doing that. For the record, seeing AOC and Marjorie Green actually come on the same side, and because look, that was a travesty of what happened there with Trump in Pennsylvania a couple weeks ago, with the protection or lack of protection rather, and seeing both sides of the aisle, regardless how you feel about Trump, come, common sense when it matters. You like to see more of that going forward. You like it at least give me hope that what, regardless of political ideology and all this stuff, that when the things that matter come together and work that out. And seeing that today was encouraging to see that.
That was, and I watched a lot of that back and forth, and I came away with the same conclusion that you did. It was good to hear, and something like that. And I remember, watching it was surreal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't seen an attempt on a president's life in 40 years
since Reagan, 81.
It was surreal to watch, and it was, and I think she didn't do herself any favors by, number one, the hubris of being like, well, I'm not going to resign. I didn't, we had some failures, but it wasn't on me. And then the excuses about the building being, well, there's people inside the building, but we couldn't put people on because it was too sloped. I mean, just like, you can't, what are you doing? You can't say the buck stops with me and then come up with all these excuses.
About it, right.
Anybody worth their weight in salt would have said, you know what? I failed the country. We almost had an assassination of a president on television or a candidate. That is unacceptable. I have one job. My one job and one purpose, especially in this moment, is to make sure this man is protected. And I failed that job, and I shouldn't be in this job.
Nancy Mace went in on her bad. Oh my God, Nancy Mace of South Carolina. She's not a senator. Is she a senator or is she a representative? I think
she's a representative, I believe.
Yeah, she went in on her, even cussing at her. She had to be toned down at that point. But yeah, it was very, very crazy to see. She resigned today. I imagine she resigned because of the pressure and what she had in that hearing. Like, yeah, I must go. Like Joe Biden honestly should have fired her a day after that. Honestly, I don't know what was even.
Yeah, I didn't get that. Well, he doesn't fire anybody though. Look what happened with Afghanistan. Nobody got fired from that.
Seriously, he should have fired him day after, 2 days after, without question. So I think of other political things that I want to ask you, but I think I cleared the deck there, for the most part. Yeah, I think cleared the deck on that one for the most part. Quick NFL thing before we get you out of here. Training camps this week, for most teams. Football's on the corner. Can't wait. I teased them on last episode of the podcast about the Chiefs, and I had the Chiefs 40% chance of three-peating, should I say. We haven't seen a three-peat in the Super Bowl era at all. I think they have a very decent chance of doing it. I think their team actually on paper is better on paper than they were last year. And I don't know, but obviously there's more pitfalls to go through in the AFC and whatnot. Where are you in the Chiefs? Chiefs in the field. What do you got?
Well, I'm a unapologetic Chiefs fan, so the fan in me, of course, says it's going to be a sweet season. I mean, obviously, uh, I would be very excited if that were to happen. Um, on paper, like you said, the time to get them in the Mahomes era was last year, and they
Yeah.
couldn't do it with that team. They've only gotten better with Worthy and Hollywood Brown now. Mahomes is going to be able to throw down the field again, which he hadn't been able to do in the last couple of years. The defense is obviously solid. And there's a lot of parity in the AFC. I mean, everybody talks about how great it is, and it is. But at the same time, there's a lot of parity, right? Mm-hmm. So, the Jets should be better. Obviously, the Ravens, the Bengals, there's challenges there, but those teams are also going to beat each other up. So all the Chiefs got to do is show up. And if they show up every week and stay injury free and we get another good year out of Kelsey, there's no reason why they can't make another run. And, honestly, I'm not afraid of any team in the NFC at all.
Should be.
Then who should I be afraid of?
You shouldn't be at all.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
The last 2 years, you've beaten the two best teams in the NFC the last couple of years. It's the Niners and the Eagles in Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see why you couldn't. I mean,
I think the Eagles are going to regress with that. I mean, they didn't really address their defense, and then lost Jason Kelsey.
That's going to be
losing Kelsey on the line, and I guess they lost Hassan Reddick, right? He went to the Jets, although he's holding out now, so that's a little weird. But their defense was atrocious, especially in the back half of the year, and they didn't do really anything to address that. So they went and got Saquon Barkley. Great, that's fine, but if you can't stop anybody, who cares? Brandon Ayuk has his issues with the Niners right now, so they've got that. You've got another year of Purdy. Maybe the Niners can make another run at it, but I'm honestly not afraid of anybody in the NFC. I think we'll be fine if we can get through the AFC and we can run the gauntlet like we did last year, get to the championship. I'm going to go all in.
What makes KC dangerous even more now, and we saw last year, is that their defense carried them to the Super Bowl. Mahomes finished the deal, but their defense was what carried this team. Because if you had told me after Week 16 losing to the Raiders on Christmas Day, it was Christmas Day, that they would, this team would win the Super Bowl a month later, I would say, hell no, get out of here. What are you talking about? And sure enough, they did that. This team is well battle tested. We'll see, but I would put it at 40% because I think Pat Mahomes, we discussed last on the podcast back in March. He's definitely my top 3 all time. Brady, Mahomes, and Montana, what order? As long as Mahomes is in that 3, we're good. And that dude is just incredible. I never count that guy out ever.
And that's the thing too. That he is never satisfied. If you ever listen to him talk as far as the football goes,
yeah,
he is he is Brady-esque and he is laser focused. Who in the midst of celebrating in a Super Bowl, not even taking your uniform off, on the field, celebrating, confetti, trophy, lights, cameras, he's running around telling everybody, we're going to do this next year. He's already thinking about next year. There's 2 guys in sports in our lifetime who have been that way. Tom Brady and Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Winners, right? Those guys just win. Nick Saban, you won a national championship. He's already like, here, take this. I got to go recruit tomorrow. He was ready to go. Mahomes is walking off the field, throwing a game-winning touchdown pass to McCole Hardman going, okay, let's do this next year. Guy's never satisfied. He wants to be better than the best. As long as he can stay healthy, and the Chiefs, like you said, they have a great offensive line. They have weapons around him. Pacheco is fantastic. Worthy, I think, has had a great camp, so I'm excited about that. Hollywood Brown is there. We got another year of Kelsey. We don't have to, beat him up. He'll be healthy coming into the year, which he wasn't last year. Chris Jones is paid. He's happy. A Hall of Fame defensive. I mean, they're poised. All the pieces are in place. Andy Reid, they have a winning culture, but they've got a guy who is hungry to be the best that there ever was. And winning 3 in a row, I think you can make that argument.
I mean, again, the most impressive stat of him is that 6 years as a starter in the Final Four every single year. You know how hard to do that? In this NFL too, especially? Please. Mm-hmm. This is why he's in the conversation greatest of all time. Anyway, Torrey, anything you want to plug? You want to plug your X/Twitter? What you want to do?
X/Twitter at Torrey M. Spears. Yeah, look me up. Give me a follow. I love to banter and I have
He
conversations.
does.
Yeah.
Talk about politics, talk about football, talk about wrestling. You know, by the way, did you mark out when Hulk Hogan came out last week in the warranty?
I mean, that's cool. You know what? Like I said, the knock on Republicans and the GOP is that they don't have fun, right? I mean, you had Kid Rock, you had Hulk Hogan, Amber Rose. I mean, they had fun. They're trying. I mean, the Republican Party is not necessarily the party of the culturally elite, and you know what? That's fine. But God bless them. They're trying. So it's cool that he went out there and ripped his shirt and did his thing, and it's fine.
It was kind of corny, but at the same time, it's like I'm a Hulkamaniac, even though I know. I have a lot of hard time coming together. The Hogan thing is hard for me because I was the biggest Hulkamaniac as a kid, and even when it's funny, even today, knowing what I know about Hogan now and Terry Bollea, when I turn on my WWE network and I'm watching my favorite era of all time, it was the Hulkamania era, and I'm watching Hogan against Andre, against Savage, I go back to that kid. Even at 44 years old, I go back to that kid. It's hard to compartmentalize sometimes.
Absolutely. And really that's okay. Is. Listen, you can separate the art from the artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Terry Bollea, the person, has some issues. Yeah, definitely. Hulk Hogan, the professional wrestler, is an icon.
He's one of the greatest of all time. That's simple. So
what did they say? Trump, it was Trump and Linda McMahon and Hulk Hogan, like 3 people at the GOP convention have all taken a Stone Cold Stunner.
Yep. It's so true.
It's so dumb. Politics is so dumb.
Yeah, and yet we love it. We love it. I'll be back tomorrow tweeting about politics on X.
You aren't even lying.
Good job, Torrey.
Hey man, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Thank you.